a lot of your book that I've read so far, it's getting to the part where it's like that Western medicine doesn't always take into context as much that the body and the mind, like us as an entire thing, as our society, as, you know, it's almost like if like the whole world and time and culture and everything were a car.
Yeah.
Instead of the doctor looking at the car, they just look at the human, which would just be one part of the car.
Yeah.
And so they're always just working on this one part instead of looking at the whole car, which could also be a cause of why the part isn't doing well.
That's the whole point. And see, we have to make a distinction here. There's Western science.
Okay.
Then there's medical practice.
Understood.
The two are not the same necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
So I was trained as a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever taught me about the mind-body unity. But physiologically, you can't separate the mind from the body. So that our emotional circuits and the immune system and the hormonal apparatus and the nervous system are actually one system. They're not separate systems. So when things happen emotionally, naturally they have a physiological effect.
Yeah.
You know, so I could give you 10,000 examples. Children whose parents are stressed are much more likely to have asthma.
Children of what?
Children whose parents are stressed are much more likely to have asthma.
Okay. So
their airways narrow and they get inflamed. There's a study that showed that Black American women, the more episodes of racism they experience, the higher the risk of asthma.
Wow.
It's been shown that women with severe PTSD have double the risk of ovarian cancer.
Wow.
This is a study out of Harvard University. Adults who experience the loss of an adult child have a higher risk of malignancy of the bone marrow and the blood. Grief. A Danish study, parents who lost a child have double the risk of multiple sclerosis. There are hundreds of studies showing the physiological impact of stress and trauma and loss on the physiology.
So manifesting itself in our bodies as a disease or contributing to...
Contributing to the onset of the disease.
Got it.
And
yeah, because cancer, it's like, you say in the book, like, people get cancer. A lot of times you hear, like, the guy got cancer, he died 3 weeks later, right? Yeah. You hear that all the time. But the cancer had been there forever.
Yeah.
And it just... enough had happened, I guess, that it turned over into being
Well,
malignant.
we know that stress, for example, can turn off genes that protect you against cancer and turn on genes that can cause cancer.
Really?
Yeah. It's not even controversial. And we know that people that repress their healthy anger, they're actually suppressing their immune system. And this stuff has been studied over and over again, and great clinicians have been recognizing this forever. And in 2,400 years ago, Socrates, the Greek philosopher, said that the problem with the doctors of today is that they separate the mind from the body.
Wow.
2,400 years ago. Now, I can name you any number of great medical pioneers. I mentioned some of them in the book, who 150 years ago, 100 years ago, 80 years ago, 40 years ago, pointed out that mind and body can't be separated, that in fact we are biopsychosocial creatures, which means that our biology is inseparable from our psyche, our emotional apparatus, and from our social relationships.
Wow, so all of it.
It's all one. Scientifically, it's all one. The problem is medical practice doesn't recognize that oneness. Yeah. So most of the time, you go to a physician with rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis, for both of which there's plenty of evidence about the role of trauma and stress, but the doctor's never going to ask you about any of that stuff. They're just going to deal with the physical aspects of it, which they should deal with.
Right.
But they also need to look at the whole. You know, what happened in this person's life and what's stressing them now, and how can we help with that part of it? You know, so medical practice, as a doctor, I don't have to be told how miraculously effective the achievements of modern medicine can be. But at the same time, there's a huge piece that we're missing, and that piece is not just intuitive or spiritual woohoo. It's science. But they don't teach that mind-body unity science in the medical schools.
Yeah, in fact, the piece is a whole. That's what they're missing. They're missing
the wholeness. Now, if you look at indigenous medicine, there's the medicine wheel, which consists of 4 quadrants. There's the physical, our physiology. There's the mental, which is our emotions and our thoughts. There's the social, which is our relationships with other people and other creatures. And then there's the spiritual, which is our connection with something greater than just our little ego, however you define that. And health, they say, depends on a balance between those 4 quadrants. Scientifically, that's totally true. But unfortunately, that science is largely ignored in medical training.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, especially now, a lot of our medicine has kind of been compromised, or I think our industry has,
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. And I don't know your industry, and I'm not trying to offend it, but it certainly seems like just, it's been, most industries have been have been compromised, the fact to have better, balance sheets than.
But look, if you come to me with depression, by the way, that's another diagnosis that I've had. So I've actually taken medication for depression. So I'm not here to.
You're not just guessing.
To dismiss them.
Yeah.
But if you look at the word depression, what does it actually mean to depress something?
Hold it back.
It's to push it down, yeah? Now, what gets pushed down in depression?
Your feelings.
Our feelings. Now, why would a person push down their feelings? One of the needs of the child, one of the essential needs of the child, as I point out in this book, I don't make this stuff up, I just report it, is to be able to experience all their emotions: anger, grief, fear, panic, love, playfulness, curiosity, lust for life, and just hunger for life. The child doesn't need to express all those emotions when they arise and have that understood, accepted, and validated by the adults. No. If I'm in an environment where the parents can't do that, you've had guests on this program, I won't mention them by name, who teach that an angry child should be made to sit by themselves until they come back to normal. No.
Right.
A 2-year-old kid gets frustrated, they get angry. If you give that kid the message that if you're angry, you can't be with me, the child is in an impossible dilemma. Am I going to separate myself from the person on whom my life depends, or will I push down my anger? Well, give that message to the kid often enough, what are they going to do? Depress their feelings. 30 years later, they're diagnosed with this disease called depression. Now, if you come to me with depression, I might decide that temporarily it might be a good idea for you to be on antidepressants. And I've taken them. They help me for a while, but it's not enough. Let's also look at what made you push down your feelings, what happened to you. Now, prescribing the antidepressant takes me 3 minutes.
Right.
Talking with you about what actually happened to you that made you push down your feelings, that takes a long time.
Right.
And doctors are not even trained to raise that question. So even if as a physician, I don't have the expertise to deal with that question, at least I could refer you to somebody who does.
Yeah.
But no, most of the time, it's just the industrial model. You come in, I got 5 minutes with you, here's the prescription, goodbye. Well, that doesn't deal with the underlying problem. It deals with the symptom, which may sometimes be helpful, sometimes it isn't. But whether it's helpful or not, it does not deal with the underlying dynamic.